Most lifters don't stop building muscle because they're lazy or they lack knowledge. They stall because their training has no system. They're too concerned about things like exercise tempo, which exercises are optimal or S tier, or what is the perfect training split, all while they're missing some of the fundamentals of muscle building. Today, I'm giving you my muscle building pyramid. We're starting with the base layers of the pyramid, the elements of muscle building that are non-negotiable, and we're working our way up. Because if you don't have the base layers locked in, plateaus aren't just likely, they're inevitable. This is the most boring aspect of the muscle building process, which means it doesn't get clicks on social media, but that means it doesn't get spoken about often enough. Lifters are so focused on what is the optimal training split, but they haven't been to the gym a consistent number of days per week in literal months. Consistency and adherence to training is the base layer of the muscle building pyramid, because if you don't show up to the gym for weeks, months, and ultimately years, you simply cannot build muscle. If you're struggling with consistency, you're not alone. This is the most common stumbling block for most people. So I would recommend, to get yourself back into it, that you're conservative with the number of days per week you train. So if you're pretty sure that you can manage 3 workouts a week, start with 2. Once you've done that consistently and you're hungry for more, you can always increase the number of workouts per week you do. But if you're already consistent with your training, let's move on to layer 2. Exercise technique is an often overlooked but incredibly crucial aspect of the muscle building process. Don't get me wrong, your technique doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm not even sure at this point if perfect lifting technique actually exists. But you'll see later in this video that if your technique isn't locked in, it makes getting the other layers of the muscle building pyramid extremely difficult. In simple terms, good exercise technique has 4 components to it. Every rep should look the same. The lifter should have the weight under control, and it should be visibly intentional, not just going through the motions. You should have a consistent range of motion, and the tempo of the lowering phase of each rep should look the same. The reps should slow down as you approach failure. So we get to layer 3, and at this point you may be thinking, I'm extremely consistent with my training and I'm pretty sure my technique is good. So then why am I not building muscle? The most likely next culprit is that your training is not intense enough. And you might protest and say, I'm in the gym 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. I take my training extremely seriously. And I hear you, that's awesome. With that kind of work ethic, you should be making amazing progress. But here is what you're missing. There are people who are training half the length of time that you are, just 2 to 3 workouts a week for 45 minutes at a time, who are doing something well that you're not. They are taking every single set they do extremely seriously. We get too caught up in things like exercise selection, training splits, and weekly volume that we fail to understand what really builds muscle. It's having a workout comprised of difficult individual sets that push the target muscle close to failure. Most lifters just need to zoom in and focus on the individual set that they are currently doing and make sure it's the best possible set that it can be. You don't build muscle by simply accumulating training volume. You will likely build muscle more optimally by taking the current amount of training volume that you do and making sure that you lock in physically and mentally, and you come to work on every single individual set that you do in the gym. I cannot stress how overlooked and how fundamental this is for consistently building muscle over months and years. And if this is all making sense, but you want some help with implementing these changes into your training and your nutrition, you can apply to work directly with me in my one-to-one fitness and nutrition mentorship in the first link in the description of this video. I help men and women lose fat, build muscle, and become the healthiest and most aesthetic version of themselves. Now we're getting to the fun stuff that dominates most of the conversation on social media. The 4th layer of the muscle building pyramid, progressive overload. Progression is just about adding stimulus to your training over time. This doesn't mean adding weight, reps, or even sets to your workouts every week. It just means that the general trend is that your training should be getting more difficult over time. The biggest mistake that I see with understanding progression is that people think that as long as they're adding weight to their exercises, that they're progressing. The problem with this is that if all you do is add weight to your exercises week after week after week, your body won't be able to adapt fast enough. Your technique is likely to break down, the number of high quality reps you do will decrease, not to mention your risk of injury will skyrocket. So what do you do instead? Remember that hard training executed in individual difficult sets is the goal. Adding weight to your exercises is not the goal. If you did a really tough set that pushed the target muscle to within 1 rep from muscular failure, you can be almost 100% certain that you built muscle from that set, even if it wasn't a personal best. Adding a little bit of weight every 2 to 3 weeks, or adding a rep or two when you can, will be more than enough progression to stimulate consistent growth. It's actually the most effective way to progress your lifts over the long term, because it makes sure that you don't plateau prematurely. If sometimes you take one step back to ultimately take 2 steps forward, that's fine as well. Whatever you do, don't just add weight because you think that's what you should do. Instead, focus on pushing your sets hard until a particular weight feels easy, you feel like you can dominate that weight, and then you add a little bit of weight. There are many coaches in the fitness industry that say there are only a few amount of really good exercises, and these are all you need to build muscle. If you do squats, deadlifts, rows, pull-ups, bench presses, and dips, you will maximize growth. And don't get me wrong, these are all fine choices. There's a reason that these lifts have been popular for decades. But the most important takeaway on the topic of exercise selection is that there are no must-do exercises. For instance, if you have really long legs, barbell back squats might be a suboptimal exercise for you to build your quads. You might want to choose something like a leg press or a hack squat instead. Maybe you have a shoulder injury and a barbell bench press causes pain. So using dumbbells or using a machine with a closer grip could be a better alternative for you. Maybe you really love the deadlift, but a Romanian deadlift is technically more optimal for hamstring development. There's absolutely nothing wrong with just getting brutally strong on the deadlift. These are the main things that your exercise choices should cover. You should train every major muscle group twice a week. You should train every function of a muscle, like hip extension on a deadlift or knee flexion on a leg curl to train the entire hamstring muscle. And you should bias different parts of the range of motion. For example, a cable curl to bias the biceps in the lengthened range, and a spider curl to bias the biceps in a shortened range. If you can cover all of these bases, you can be pretty certain that your program is training your body pretty comprehensively. For muscle building, exercise selection definitely matters. There are better exercises and there are worse exercises, but it's way less important than the lower layers of the pyramid. And finally, the 6th and final layer of the muscle building pyramid, the cherry on top, training split. You might be surprised to see that training split is at the absolute top of the muscle building pyramid because so many people fixate on this detail. Training split is just how you split up your body parts to be trained over the course of a training week. And it does matter, but it's way less important than you may think. There are studies that suggest that as long as training volume is the same across a training week, the way you split up the muscle groups doesn't make a huge impact on muscle building. But in my opinion, having now designed training programs for hundreds of people, the most relevant factor in terms of choosing a training split is accounting for recovery. Some bigger muscles, particularly lower body muscles like quads and hamstrings, may take 2 to 3 days to fully recover, whereas smaller muscle groups like the lateral delts or the biceps could recover in about a day. And this is why upper-lower splits or push-pull leg splits are popular. They tend to be good at maximizing training volume per muscle group while accounting for sufficient recovery. Your training split can be whatever you want it to be as long as you're giving your muscles enough time to recover. And there you have it, guys, the completed muscle building pyramid. As you can see, the boring stuff like consistency, technique, and training intensity matter far more for gains than the more exciting topics of progressive overload, exercise selection, and training split. If you have been plateaued with your muscle building for a while, I hope this video helped you identify which layer on the pyramid you're struggling with and how to rectify it. And if you found this breakdown useful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more common sense, evidence-based fitness and nutrition deep dives. The applications to work directly with me are in the first link of the description. Fill out an application, I get back to you, I'd love to hear from you, we jump on a call and chat about how we can achieve your fitness goals together. And check out this video next, which are my 5 brutally honest fat loss tips to help you to finally get lean.